The first bill on the calendar for the day is Senate File 40. The clerk will report the bill.
Senate File number 40, number 1 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to unemployment insurance, providing for additional benefits, the second engrossment.
Members, please take your conversations off of the House floor, into the alcoves, or into the retiring room. The member from St. Louis, the author of the bill, Representative Listlegard.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This is the UI bill, the unemployment extension for the workers at North Shore Mining and the Noble Blasting Company. I'm going to run through the bill before I speak from my heart, obviously. This bill is straightforward and it consists of 6 subdivisions. Subdivision 1 tells us who is covered by this bill: workers in the iron ore industry who were laid off between April 3rd, 2022 and March 4th, 2023, plus the workers in the explosive manufacturing industry. Subdivision 2 provides additional eligibility requirements, including that a worker has exhausted their regular UI. Subdivision 3 states that laid off mining can collect up to 26 additional UI benefits. Subdivision 4 addresses a situation where a worker again can use the 26 weeks. Subdivision 5 states that Cleveland Cliffs, North Shore Mining will pay back the UI trust fund for additional benefits paid under this bill. Dyno Noble will not have to pay. Subdivision 6 provides that workers who are already receiving federal TRA assistance are not eligible for the benefits. This bill has an effective date retroactive to August 14th, 2022. This is when they were originally laid off in May. Obviously, everyone who knows me knows that this is personal for me. I come from mining. My grandfather helped build Erie Mining Company that became LTV, where I worked until I lost my job at 27 years old, married with 2 children. And it set me on this path. And when you look at the history, because this 26 weeks doesn't happen all the time across the state of Minnesota. But when they reference LTV, that was me. When I was 27 years old, married with 2 children, and this benefit was one of them that truly helped us in the devastation. People don't understand when they say, well, people get laid off all the time, just go work somewhere else. I want to put in perspective for you that in the surrounding communities, so the mine is in Babbitt, the plant is in Silver Bay. And then you think about the surrounding communities. Aurora's population, 1,700, I rounded up. Aurora's population is 1,700. Babbitt's is 1,400. Hoyt Lakes is 2,200. And Silver Bay's is 1,600. And as a former city councilor and a mayor, think about this. This whole benefit paid is $10.26 million. Aurora's annual budget, all inclusive, in 2022 was $2.4 million. Babbitt's, $2.5 million. Hoyt Lakes, $5 million. And Silver Bay, $5 million. That doesn't even add up to $15 million for all of their communities spending in their budget. That's how significant $10.26 million is. There's no cost, to the general fund. It's $310,000 that will affect the trust fund, the unemployment trust fund. But Cliffs is a wonderful company. It's one of them companies that is leading the way in the transformation in how the industry is working. And this is no fault of the workers. This is no fault of Cliffs. It is a supply and demand issue. Cliffs used to be a pellet. And now they are an integrated company that is leading the way in this industry. And so the workers, no fault of their own, it is just the cycle that we live in. And I'm proud to say that in this body, I've helped farmers, I've helped small businesses, and now it's time to help the people of the Iron Range. And the bipartisan support that I've gotten in this body, it means a lot to me. You know, on both sides of the aisle, it's not about Democrat or Republican, it's about helping people. And that's why I ran. You know, I'm very, very proud of where, you know, I tell people the history and traditions of the Iron Range run as deep as the minerals under our feet. You know, and I'm proud of our lineage and our heritage. And it is it's a tough world up on the Iron Range. It's cyclical. So I'm asking for your help. I would like, Madam Speaker, if I may, I would like my colleague from the other side of the aisle, Representative Scraba, to have a moment to say a few words. He was a former mayor and now the state representative from Ely.
The member from St. Louis, Representative Scraba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Dave. I rise in support. These are my people. These folks have grown up on the Iron Range. They got jobs on the Iron Range, and now they're in idle. They don't like being idle. They like working. They want to work. They have every opportunity to work. They just need to be called back. While they wait, they need our support. It's been over 13 weeks, 20 weeks. So we're trying to go back to November, and it'll carry them through this summer if they need that. We probably don't need that, but it's the least we can do. When I campaigned in October and November, I spent a fair amount of time in Silver Bay, and that was the topic for the folks in Silver Bay. How can you help? How can you help? And now, bipartisanly, we are helping. We're going to, hopefully we will pass this, and my constituents will stay another day and hopefully get the mine going so we can keep everything going. Our estimates, if it takes $10 million to fulfill this, our unemployment insurance fund is about $1 billion. So it's really not a big hit on it, and Cliffs will help pay it back. With that, Madam Speaker, I yield. Thank you.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, Senate File number 40.
Third reading. Any further discussion to the bill? The member from Dakota, Representative Garofalo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and Representative Listlegard, thank you for bringing your bill forward today. I'll be voting in favor of your bill today. You said it best in your comments. You used the word help. And I think it's important to note that there are many separate ways to help people, and the bill that you have before us today is one way to help. So I do support that, and I know that you have other ways that you are working to help your district as well. But Madam Speaker and Representative Listlegard, it is important for members of this body and the state to know that there are some members who are not helping your region of the state. There are some members of a political party that are literally choking the life out of northeastern Minnesota right now from economic development. And Madam Speaker and members, it's important for members to hear an illustrative story of what is going on right now in our state. As many people know, that there is a transformation taking place in the energy sector in the United States, particularly motor vehicles. That we are reducing the amount of vehicles that will be running on gas, and we'll be increasing the amount of vehicles that will be running on electricity. This is a good thing. It doesn't mean every car is going to run on electricity, but a lot of them are. And the Biden administration has wisely decided that taking our current dependence on foreign oil and replacing it with a foreign dependence on critical minerals is a bad idea. So from the supply chain of electric vehicles, the clean energy supply chain, from mining to minerals to processing to development, there are huge investments taking place across the country. Giant lithium-ion battery recycling center in Charleston, South Carolina, battery plants in Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio. And right here in Minnesota, we have an opportunity to be at the front of the clean energy pipeline. And so we have a large nickel mine. Now, I know there's a debate about whether Aiken County is in the Iron Range, and I don't want to get involved in that. Okay, I don't want to get in that fight. But there is a huge nickel deposit in the Tamarack mine in Aiken County. Huge. And nickel is needed for electric batteries. And so a company called Talon has a project, the rights there, to extract this mine, very, very rich. There's only one nickel mine in the United States of America right now, members. One, it's in northern Michigan. And that's going to be retiring, begin depleted in the next couple of years. So what Talon is going to be doing, their plan is to take that material from the ground, put it on rail cars, rail car it out to western North Dakota where the high-end processing is going to be done. That's where the nickel is going to get processed with $430 million of private sector investment. Now, if you're asking yourself, how on God's green earth can we be advocating for clean energy by taking part of Minnesota, putting it on a rail car, and running it via diesel locomotives out to western North Dakota? Representative Garofalo, that's a hell of a lot of emissions. How on God's green earth can we be doing that? The reason why they're doing it is because they can't build anything in Minnesota. And that's not even the worst part about it, members. Here's the worst part. The Biden administration, who is committed to getting more domestic sourcing materials, rightfully for batteries, took a look at Talon's plan and said, yeah, you're right. You can't build anything in Minnesota. The federal government is giving Talon over $100 million, $100 million to take the stuff from Minnesota and via train, move it out to western North Dakota. Okay? That's the stupidity of Minnesota's regulation and environmental laws right now. So, Madam Speaker and Representative Listlegard, thank you for helping the workers today. Thank you for doing that. And I know that you know there's a lot of ways to help people in northeastern Minnesota and to get to the front of the clean energy pipeline, and I know that you work on that. But I would also call on members in the majority party to wake up and recognize the destruction of the policies that you are advocating for and have enacted in this state. Let's help Minnesotans with jobs. Let's help Minnesotans with economic activity. Madam Speaker, Representative Listlegard, again, I'm supporting your bill. Thank you.
The member from Chisago, Representative New Brindley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'm wondering, would Representative Listlegard yield for a question?
He will yield. Representative New Brindley.
Thank you, Madam
Brindley.
Speaker. And thank you, Representative Listlegard. I'm looking at Subdivision 5 on charging of benefits, and it's saying that this benefit may not be used to compute the future unemployment tax rate of the tax-paying employer. Can you explain that? I mean, typically, obviously, with unemployment insurance, when an employer when employees are required to take advantage of the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund, it affects an experience rating so that those employers take on the brunt of those costs. So I'm wondering if you can just explain that subdivision for us.
Representative Listlegard.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'm one of those individuals that likes to rely on experts in that field. And Madam Speaker, if I may, Representative Knorr, who is an expert in this field, will be able to address your question.
Representative New Brindley, would you like to ask Representative Knorr to yield?
Sure, he is welcome to answer the question.
Representative Knorr will yield. Representative Knorr.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I think we've had the debate about the unemployment in the last session. And if you recall, we invested $2.7 billion to make sure that no business is impacted by an increased tax rate on the unemployment. Members, it's $2.7 billion that we took from many programs and invested in that employment. Quite frankly, initially before that, we forgave businesses. We held them harmless for the experience rating and many other issues. And for this instance, it's no different than what we did in the previous process. And quite frankly, the industry that we're talking about right now, they are paying at the highest rate of the experience rating. There's a threshold. It cannot be more than 8.9% when it comes to the experience rating. And quite frankly, because of the unemployment and everything else that has been happening, that does not impact an industry that is already paying at the highest rate of experience rate. Likewise, let me report that right now, we have $1.7 billion in the UI Trust Fund. That is a surplus. And let me say this, in the first quarter, which I'm hoping that by April 30th, we will see that number reach more than $2 billion. And that means every employer will see a reduction based on the requirement once we reach the solvency point of 1.0 equivalent amount for the UI Trust Fund. So this increase is not something significant for any employers, knowing that we have invested in, knowing that many employers may see a reduction based on the level of the trust fund today. That's the response, Madam Speaker. Thank you so much, Representative Listergard, for carrying this bill.
Representative New Brindley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So to translate into layman's terms for folks, it sounds like, so what happens when an employer lays off employees? They have an experience rating. And when employers lay off employees a lot, which would apply to seasonal work, things like this, they'll have a higher experience rating. Those who lay off very few employees over time have a lower experience rating. Those with a high experience rating pay more into unemployment insurance. Now, of course, the purpose of this bill is to support the workers on the Iron Range. And I am certainly going to do that today, and I'm going to vote yes on that bill. But Representative Listergard, I would encourage you to learn more about the unemployment system when you bring these bills forward, because this is really important stuff when you're talking about unemployment insurance. Because what that means, if the experience rating for this employer cannot be raised, then that means that every other employer is going to have to pay those costs. So I would just encourage you to make sure that you understand the implications of that. And Madam Speaker, would Representative Listergard yield for one more question?
He will yield. Representative New Brindley.
Although perhaps this will be for Representative Knorr as well. He addressed it a little bit, but I would love a more direct answer. I'm wondering, I don't know what the total cost of this will be. And obviously, when the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund drops below solvency, it automatically increases the tax rate for employers. And I just want to ensure that this is not going to do that.
Representative Listergard.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. And once again, I would defer to my colleague that is an expert. If you heard him, he knows in depth. And I'm going to do the best that I can, but I'm not here trying to say that I'm the smartest guy in the room. I'm here to fight for people. And so if you're looking for a question or if you're looking for an answer, just show respect, because I just gave you a guy that knows a whole lot more than I do. Please, right? So let's just show respect. If you're looking for an answer, I'm deferring to somebody that knows it better than me. I'm not here to play politics.
Representative New Brindley.
Madam Speaker, to my understanding, when you have questions about the bill, it's customary to ask the bill author about that bill.
It's also customary to keep your
strange.
comments focused on the legislation and not personalities. Representative
Which
New
I
Brindley.
believe I did, Madam Speaker,
You
and
have the
someone
floor.
else did not.
Representative New Brindley, you have the floor.
I am not the one whose motives were just, excuse me, Representative Listergard's motives were not called into question. Mine were. Mine were, Madam Speaker.
The prohibition is on personalities, not just motives. Representative New Brindley.
The question remains, will this bill lower the Unemployment Trust Fund to a point that the tax rate for employers is automatically increased?
Are you requesting Representative Listergard to yield?
I am requesting Representative Knorr to yield.
Representative Knorr.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative New Brindley, at this rate of $310,000, when we have invested $2.7 billion, we're right now in a place whereby the trust fund will exceed what it's going to be. This will be historic high level, I'm assuming. That means employers may see a reduction because we have invested a lot in that trust fund in the previous session. So with that amount, there will be no impact to the other employers, knowing that the trust fund is right now in a good place, in a good shape because of the work we did last session.
Representative New Brindley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, I guess we'll let it go. We're all here to support the workers right now, but I'm not sure we got a clear answer there. Yes, we made sure that the Unemployment Trust Fund was solvent last year, but now we are dipping into that trust fund significantly. So yes, based on last year, I understand that those rates, we held those harmless. But what I'm wondering specifically is if this is going to affect those rates, and I'm not sure we got that answer. Unfortunately, there's a group of people on the Iron Range with really critical jobs who are currently out of work. They don't have other options. Their industry is mining, and it is currently shut down. And through no fault of their own, these workers don't have other options. They don't have other employment options, so that they can't just transfer, most of us have lots of open jobs in our districts where we would love to have a workforce come in and be able to fill those jobs, but that's just not the case on the Iron Range. And so I'm happy to support the bill today, but, Madam Speaker, it would be helpful if we had better information on the impact on whatever we do and whatever we send out of this chamber.
The member from Itasca, Representative Igo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a good bill today for the Iron Range. I think I want to start with talking about the name of the Iron Range. And, the delegation members in this room, we all know it's the Mesabi Range. What that means is the word giant. And that's what I think of when I think of our home on the Iron Range. The men and women that built the Iron Range built the state that we live in, built the country that we are so blessed to call home, and they're going to continue building our country for the next generation of workers after them. This bill today is going to make sure that those workers at North Shore are taken care of until they can go back to work building our country, building our state, and keeping our Northland strong. I want to thank Representative Garofalo for what he said, because I think he made a good point too. Today is about helping the workers who need it right now. But I think we're just beginning. And I think with the help of this chamber, on both sides of the aisle, we can start investing in the workers that built this state, built this nation, and are ultimately going to build the world. We need to remember how important those men and women are who go into those mines every day and give us everything we need. There was very, very important and bold Rangers that sat in this chamber before me and that will sit in this chamber after me that told the story of who we are up north, who told the story of how we harnessed the ground and built everything around us. Today when we vote, I want us all to remember those workers. And remember that it's not, as Representative New Brindley said, it's not by any fault of their own that they're in this position. And they've been going a long time on these unemployment benefits and now have been without those benefits, trying to take care of their families. And like was said, they can't just leave. They can't just move away because the range is their home. And for the members who have visited there, and I always bring this up when I talk on the floor about our home, I encourage you to come up and visit us because I think you're going to want to make it your home too. And frankly, they're going to stay there and they're going to work in that mine. They're going to keep building it, making it better, not just for taconite. But soon we're going to have copper and nickel and many more critical minerals coming out of the ground, and it's going to be critical that those men and women continue to call the range their home. So I'm proud to support this bill today. I want to thank all the members of the range delegation that put this bill together. Representative Scraba, for you to come down here in your first month of session and bring this bill, working with the other members of the delegation, that's a lot. I commend you for that. So thank you for all your hard work. Thank you for the members of this chamber that brought this bill here today, and I encourage a yes vote.
Any further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, Representative Listagard.
Well, thank you, everyone, and I truly appreciate all the support for those who that support mining from afar, because it is the right thing to do. And I will tell you that years ago that I didn't believe in climate change. I didn't, but I do now. I believe in climate change, and I believe that we live in a global economy. We also live in a global environment. And I do believe we shouldn't be exporting our jobs or our conscience overseas to third world countries that don't have the same standards as we do. I believe that those conversations need to continue, and they will continue. Educate and advocate. Don't push people, draw people in with education to get people to understand the importance of what we're doing and where we're going. This world is transitioning. Make no mistake about it. And there is only one way to get to where we need to go, and that is to mine our way out of it. The very company, Cleveland Cliffs, if you do any of the homework of that company, what they have done in the last about 8-9 years, it's incredible. That company that we're talking about, to Representative Garofalo's point, he wants to sell new cars. Emissions is coming out of the tailpipes. So if we want to reduce stuff, we do need to invest in clean energy. Yes, I agree with everything that you're saying. And I'll stand shoulder to shoulder with you. Educate and advocate. But today, let's not forget what this is about, the workers. Those conversations, they will continue, and I will be there side by side with you. But today is for the workers, and I appreciate and I would hope that everyone would support those workers.
The clerk will take the roll on the bill. Members, please vote. You can change your vote on the, you were accidentally locked out. We gotcha. Are you an aye? Got it. All members having voted, the clerk will close the roll.
I didn't get that. What is it? You should have said it on the tape. He's on the board. He's on the board? No, thank you.
He's on the board. Okay, you unlocked him.
Did you unlock him then? Okay, perfect.
He was accidentally locked.
Got it.
There being 127 ayes and 7 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to.